Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Brownsville Matters. I'm your host, Dr. W.F. Strong, and I'm happy to have with us today Jerry McHale, who I call the Diogenes of Brownsville. Keeping him honest out there.
As he said to Alexander the Great said to him, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And he said, "Yeah, move out of the sun."
I'd forgotten that. Such a great anecdote. So you don't mind the title I give you?
Which is? The Diogenes? Sure. I dress a little better.
Not quite as poor.
And no. He used to go around nude he fit right in downtown.
You've been here in Brownsville how long?
Next year will be 50 years.
Wow, 50 years. Well, that's one reason I wanted to have you, because this show is about you might say, the evolution of Brownsville, how it's gone from where it was 50 years ago, or even before that, to where it is today. So are we moving in the right direction
I think
your
so.
mind?
Well, I love downtown, and downtown is certainly moving in a positive direction. And what's really inspirational about downtown, it's the young generation that's going in and buying places and promoting it.
What was it like when you came?
Nothing. Puras cantinas. The Fort Brown was the place people hung out. I was 24 when I came here and hooked up with buddies, and we spent the majority of our time in Matamoros. Matamoros was nothing but fun. Plus, it was inexpensive, and I still go to Matamoros. I live at the Fort Brown, and I walk over the bridge, and probably in the last 3 weeks, I've eaten Garcia's 3 or 4 times, which, when you're 24 years old, that's where the old people went. We were looking for the cantinas and the action, and plus there were a lot of good restaurants.
Yeah. Was the drive-in around then? When you first came?
Right. The drive-in was here, and what happened to the drive-in, they had a major strike, and that's what ended up closing the drive-in down, because the drive-in was probably the most elite restaurant in Matamoros.
Oh, I think so, yes. Yeah. I mean, I didn't go there until about 85, I suppose, but it was such a shock to find this little pocket of beautiful culture in the midst of, well, I mean, the culture was diversified, of course. You had everything you wanted there, but this, they had a 6-piece orchestra there that they played frequently.
Well, and they had that enclosed area where apparently they had a leopard or I don't know what it was, but there was a story that some drunk climbed in there and the leopard killed them.
Oh, my goodness. But they had parrots later, right? In that area?
I would go there occasionally, but it was actually, we've when you're young, you're cheap, right?
Yeah, right.
And, because you don't have much money.
Yeah, you're poor. You're cheap because you're poor.
So we didn't go there that often, because their prices were higher.
Yeah, I remember going there in early 90s as the elegant restaurant. It was the place that you went because it was truly upper scale and classy.
Right. And we were a bunch of long-haired guys dressed like we just got from South Padre Island. So that was the way we attired ourselves and pretty much the way we thought.
You came here from California?
Came here from California. What happened was I went to a state college, and we were on the quarter system. And during my time in college, the rich guys in the winter quarter went up to the Sierra Nevadas to ski, and the working class guys like myself would spend the quarter down on the beaches of Mexico. And when I finally graduated, I'm the oldest of 8, my parents insisted we all get educations, and they were right in their advice. But I decided to go to the Gulf. I'd never been to the Gulf, so I went to Tampico, and I was sitting actually in a bar that was part of a hotel right there on the plaza, and all these kids in blue came trooping in, and an older gentleman sat next to me. His name was Charles Davenport, and he was the band leader for Porter High School, and they were going to march in a Mardi Gras type celebration. And so we started chatting. He was drinking a beer. Back then you could do things that you can't do anymore, right? And he said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, my parents wanted me to get a college education. I finished, and I'm just traveling. And he said, well, if you ever need a job, go to Brownsville, and because they're desperate for teachers. And so a couple months later, I was in Oaxaca, and I had a couple $1,000s, which was decent
That's a lot
coin
of
back
money
in the
then.
day.
Yes, yes.
My idea was to go all the way down to the Panama Canal. But if I did that, I was going to spend all my money, and I would have to go back home. And, early 70s, you know, Jack Kerouac, you wanted to live that life, right? Of course, it wasn't so much beat as, hippie. Yeah. But so I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to Brownsville. And so, because I don't know anything about Texas, right? And, Texas is a mystical place. And I'll be right on the border. So I'll have access to Mexico.
Right.
And if I call my parents up and say, I'm a teacher, they're going to say, praise St. Judas, Our boy's been saved. And I ended up off and on working for the BISD for 40 years.
40 years?
40 years.
And what did you teach?
I taught ESL, and I taught senior lit. So it was an interesting juxtaposition. And one of the selling points with my seniors, I was at Rivera. And I taught at various schools, but taught my last 20 years at Rivera. And I would say to the kids, because with my ESL kids, they used to play the guitar all the time, which was, gave them confidence, improved their accents, and obviously pick up some vocabulary. But I would say to the seniors, okay, once the class is settled, I said, okay, we're not going to have any homework in this class, okay? No homework. Okay. And then I would say, and everybody's passing. And so they want to know, well, what's the catch? And then my colleagues would say, what are you doing? Okay, because the other senior teachers, everybody wants to be in your class. And so I would say to them, you listen to me for 45 minutes. That's all I want. I want you to listen to me. I'll improve your reading, and I'll improve your writing, and I'll improve your appreciation for literature. But you have to listen, okay? And it created just a really serene classroom, and the kids would listen. And I always told my colleagues, imagine that I've never played the guitar. And Estudia Cantina, classical music. The BISD has a wonderful musical department. And I said, if I never played the guitar, and I went every day for 45 minutes from the middle of August to the 1st of June, how much do you think I would improve? And the answer is dramatically. You improve dramatically. And, seniors aren't going to do any homework anyway, right? But it was great. Like I coached soccer for 25 years, coached football, coached tennis, and I took the very first team to state in soccer. And you know how big soccer is in Brownsville, how successful we've been. And I took the very first team to state. So that was, in fact, that was like 1982, 1983. I was sports editor of the Herald in 1977. That's where I started writing. And out of the 6 football coaches I was covering, 4 of them were fired. Okay, one, they were going 1-9, 0-10, but I wouldn't let anybody forget that. But that's where I started writing, and because I was raised on the San Francisco Chronicle back in the days when newspapers had 8, 10 columnists. So I would always read the columnists. Obviously, they had a lot of freedom, and so I started writing a column 3 days out of the week, and that's where I learned to write.
So you were coaching, you were teaching American novel?
No, English.
But
English lit.
English lit, but
right. No, English. England. Okay.
Okay, British lit.
British lit. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
So what sorts of books did you have them read, or stories?
No. We had a book that we checked out. It was like an anthology.
Okay.
So you start back with
read some Dickens.
Oh, way back. Go back to Canterbury Tales.
All right, way back,
Shakespeare, and all the way up to more or less the present. The books are probably 20 years old.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is, the reason I bring it up is because for many, many students in high school, the teacher that they remember is most influential later in life is the person who taught senior English, because I suppose you open them up to new ideas they've never thought of before. What do you think? What do you think it is that makes that so impactful?
I think the bottom line is that they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to communicate to them at that level. And you're also able to talk to them about other subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the time in their life. Obviously they're in a major transition.
Yeah.
And what's key is that in teaching, you don't have discipline problems with your seniors for the most part. The kids that bite the dust, it's usually 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. Mm-hmm. So by the time they get to be seniors, they appreciate honesty from their teachers. And I always felt that I was able to improve their writing. I was able to, hey, it's introduction, body, conclusion, subject, verb, complement. Okay, let's just work right there. Okay, we'll start there. And, people don't read like they used to, as you well know.
Yeah.
And the kids, they're not interested in reading for the most part. So that's why I took the approach I did. If I can get quality out of you in contrast to quantity, just lay all this work on you, that's really pointless. And so I just think in general, you're able to be very honest with seniors that you can't be with, younger students.
I was recently in a Buc-ee's. I've kind of shied away from them because to me it's just a monolithic shrine of Texas pop culture.
Right.
And although, the food's good. But I was going through the store. I was just, on purpose, I was looking for books. I said, well, it's a shrine to Texas culture. Do they have Texas literature in here? Texana. And I found 3 books. And I found 3 books at the bottom of a shelf. I had to move some fake flowers, to see them. And I said, damn, what a shame. Here they are celebrating Texas culture. They could at least elevate the culture a bit, give us some good Texas lit, some McMurtry, some McCarthy, but not there. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I could say Brittany being popular. I've been listening to Cormac a lot lately.
Uh-huh.
And the one that they really focus on is Blood Meridian.
Yeah, I love Blood Meridian.
But Brownsville is, I don't know if you know, we finally have a bookstore again.
Oh, I know, downtown. That's awesome.
Exactly. And that's part of the beauty of downtown. Downtown's the renaissance of Brownsville. And I was coming back, I spent 3 summers up in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And I was coming back with my last wife, and I said to her, you know what, I've never been to New Orleans. So we need to go to New Orleans. And so we stayed a couple of days in New Orleans and walked around the French Quarter. And I said to myself, you know what? If Brownsville squared off like a 6x6 block area, we would have our own French Quarter because we have the architecture. And to me, and obviously we're one of the most historical cities in Brownsville, I just see all these possibilities downtown. And,
me too. Yes.
And you take Harlingen and McAllen, their idea of renovating, revitalizing downtown. Well, they're doing it with 19, 20, 30, 40 buildings, okay? Mm-hmm. We have so many buildings in the 1900s and a surfeit of, 1910 and 1920 buildings. So, I've always been enamored with Brownsville, downtown. Plus, having access to Matamoros.
My wife wears a T-shirt. She's from Matamoros, but she wears a T-shirt that Chris Christopherson made famous that says, you can leave Brownsville, but you'll never get Matamoros out of your soul.
Yeah, no. That's why I go over to Garcia's. Mm-hmm. And it's luxurious. When was the last time you were at Garcia's?
Oh, probably a year ago.
Okay, so that hasn't been too long.
But I have been. I always like Garcia's and Blanca White's, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And the drive-in, but doesn't exist anymore. Portales, Los Portales.
That still exists. Yeah, because I go to Mexico City a lot,
Uh-huh.
and so you take the cab out past 6th Street, and Portales is still there.
It's still there.
And according to everyone, it's just great as ever. But I just like the fact you walk across the bridge, you go to Garcia's, the food's excellent. And there's no doubt that the tecates are colder in Matamoros.
Yeah, it is a shame though that we've had this strange transition over the past 20 years because the river used to be just an informality. You were on the honor system. Yes, American citizen, and there was I liked the 1990s, 1980s. Where you just flowed back and forth with no problem.
No, there's no doubt we've lost something not having Matamoros. And one of the suggestions, because I do hang out downtown so much, is if downtown could somehow incorporate just Garcia's. Okay, you just park downtown, you walk across the Garcia's, you come back and party downtown, because there are still people who just want to say, I was in Mexico.
I just was in Mexico, yeah. Whatever happened to the idea, they've talked about it for years, of kind of developing the riverfront down there in downtown again.
Right.
And so there's talk of doing that for years and years, but do you know of anything about that?
I don't. Oh, I mean, I've seen, every so often. Originally with Amigo Land, the individual that was involved in that, they were going to do a Six Flags back in the middle 70s.
Oh.
That was their idea. So they have all these ideas.
Yeah.
But I think if we renovate downtown the way it should be, then that's going to create possibilities along that
line.
Bank between downtown and, say, where Amigo Land was,
Right.
or the old bridge is.
Well, you remember the talk of building the weir.
Right, exactly.
And it was going to raise the water level, and it was going to make it more attractive to develop that on both sides of the river. And now Elon, he's not talking about doing that, but he is talking about kind of developing a little city out there, it sounds like.
Oh, I hadn't been there for a while. And I remember when they looked like they were launching beer cans, okay, some of those early ships of theirs. And so a friend and I drove out there. Impressive. Impressive. Of course, we're not an environmental community. If we were, we wouldn't drink the water here, right? But it's all about money and jobs. I mean, that's just the reality. Really, the biggest project I would think that's at the top of the priority list when you talk about just the development in general is that second bridge to the island.
Oh yes, that's true, and that's been approved, right?
No, they're doing. I don't know if they're even doing environmental studies on it yet, but they talk about it. It's one of those things that when Trump was president, that every 2 weeks the infrastructure bill. Well, he never did pass the infrastructure bill, did he? And so that's kind of like the bridge. They talk about it. They talk about the politicians when the election comes along. I mean, it's a massive investment of money.
It's
That's
gonna
a
be like
massive project.
7 miles long.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just the bridge. Okay, we're not talking the roads are leading in and out. But to me, that's the big project. And then going back to downtown, to me, Brownsville's doing well.
Yeah.
Okay. The north side's prosperous. You go by, we're allegedly one of the poorest cities in the United States, right? But you look at the people, you wouldn't think we were poor. You go by the restaurants on a Monday along the freeway there.
Yeah, they're full, they're packed.
They're packed.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, downtown, outside of our Resaca's and our palm trees, and to me, Brownsville is a beautiful, beautiful city. The fact we're subtropical, it's green.
We have parrots,
right?
Wild parrots.
Yeah. But to me, the attraction's downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown's the attraction.
I was just there this morning downtown, and it was cool this morning.
It was nice this morning.
Very, very nice. I was down there. It's at IBC Bank, and I was, but I had to get out of my truck to go in and do business, whatever. And I was just standing there and saying, "This is so nice." It's such it's very little traffic. It's peaceful. It's quiet. The parrots are flying over. I had your response. It's a little tropical paradise, and I even thought to myself, I'd like to live down here.
Well, I said I live at the Fort Brown,
Yeah.
so you know how close I am to downtown.
Absolutely.
And how close I am to Mexico.
And then you have the university itself, which is a beautiful ecosystem.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I had a stepdaughter one time, and she wanted to go to Stanford. And so we drove out there and checked out the campus and this and that. And Stanford has a huge, have you been to Stanford?
Yes.
It has like a huge plaza, okay? Or not promenade, but esplanade, perhaps. And it's surrounded by buildings that have that Spanish motif. But it's all spread out. And I said to my wife, you know what? Damn, UTBTSC is more beautiful, more aesthetically pleasing, because the buildings are closer together. It's much more intimate. And then you have the resakas, and you have the palm trees. So I think our university, and our junior college, I love living where I live. I live one block from the bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm right in the middle of the campus, and no, it is an absolutely gorgeous campus.
And you walked it at night, right? It's very, very nice in the evenings.
I will go through there.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's quiet.
It's quiet. It's well lit. It's very, very.
And there's you see 4 or
very, very
5
nice.
cops.
Yeah.
So it's safe.
So, well, listen, thanks a lot for coming in and pumping Brownsville.
Well, when you make your bed someplace, you better not complain about the sheets, no?
And I'm with you. And everybody who comes talks about their hope for downtown, that it's made great strides, and they hope that it can become what it seems to promise to be.
The bottom line is it's much more than a snowball. It's not quite an avalanche yet, but they're renovating the El Jardín. They're renovating the Samano, the 2 biggest buildings downtown, with the exception of the old people's home. There's 2 restaurants, French restaurants, that are opening. The momentum is absolutely jaw-dropping. It's really incredible that we're going through this transformation. And again, I say it's the young generation that's leading it. So that's a good future.
That's the encouraging thing. They truly hold the future in their hands, and so look forward to see what they do with it. Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it.
I enjoyed it, WM.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button. And then we'll really like you too.